city that is outside that fort. And I'm sure he's going to touch not only on the Dutch fort and the great city of Jaffna, but he'll also make comparisons with other similar cities in Sri Lanka. You heard of Colombo and the Pittakotua, the Kotua and the Pittakotua. So the Pittakotua is what he's going to talk about in terms of Jaffna. So without any further delay, while we wait for the other two, the lecture will commence with Mr. Jayatissa, who will probably speak for about half an hour, the others for 10 minutes, and the third for about 5 minutes. So let me request Mr. Jayatissa to take the floor, and I see the other two lecturers coming on. Please come up.
Good evening. I must thank, first of all, the National Trust and Dr. Roland Silva, especially the President of the National Trust, and other trustees and members and dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. So our topic today is, as explained earlier, gateway to mutual heritage of Jaffna, with special reference to the great city. Yeah, it is clear that any city developed gradually or created at once is a reflection of the people, culture of the people living in that area, or the people using it, that area. So because it has some relationship to the behavior of the people and their values also there. So any city has this quality. So therefore it is the culture, it's a reflection of the culture of the people. So can be who created it, or sometimes who use it, or sometimes how they inspired it, or it relates to the living activities of the people. So I have put here some photographs to show you the European cities, because so you can see that their activities are different and to our activities, and again the setting and layout and the facilities are also different. So it reflects that people. So that means it is our heritage, material or non-material. That means we call it physical or sometimes tangible or non-physical, intangible. So it is the evidence and record of the past. The township is the reflection of our heritage in material and behavioral sense. We have inherited it. Now we are using and enjoying it. And why not we pass it to our generations? Yeah, urban area. So we must identify what is urban area, what is a city. Before we go into the heritage city, what is urban city? So there are some norms, there are some identifications. So it's a dynamic place. High population. Land division is also high. More and more roads, paths, alleys, more built up areas. Buildings for residential, administrative and other functions. services are concentrated, amenities are also at a very close distance. So here that means urban areas demanding improvements and development. It's natural. And when we think of the user groups, varying from residents to commuters, working people, public servants, private businessmen, government people who come to get some services. There are people who visit occasionally to seek for services or some amenities. So that means we have regular or occasional users. Residents are also there. So that means again it is a fact to increase the demand for development. Increasing demand for development. So after the conclusion of the 30 years of armed conflict in Jaffna area, so Jaffna is deserving development. So Jaffna is now under the pressure of in-migration of people. So there are indicators to see these things. So I am not going into detail of those things because earlier, as an example, earlier we didn't have buses operating from Colombo, but now we can see there are a lot of buses going from Colombo, Ellavatta to Jaffna. So there are lot of bus operators and others. And if you visit Jaffna, there are a lot of new shops are coming up. That means new hoardings, boards. When you think of the services of cellular phones, there are big boards are now coming. So, and it needs road widening and expansion of services. So should Jaffna be open for just development only? So that means if we just wait and can we wait and see? Can we just leave it for development? Can Jaffna be preserved of trees? But I don't think anybody will agree to that because the people living in that area need development, more services, as I said. So then answer to both would be no. Therefore it needs an integrated approach while identifying the values of the area. So how do we identify the values? So what will happen if we did not engage on this work? So this is a good example. Singapore is a good example to understand this issue. When the rapid development activities are going on, the historic areas were ignored and removed to pay for new buildings. So Chinatown area here, demolished in large scale, discovered number of tourists. So they discovered number of tourists were diminishing rapidly, and then the government realized that something has to be done, and so they renovated the remaining parts of the Chinatown. Here, so here you can see the new buildings removing along the river. So again, so they wanted it to be used again. So now it has become a good tourist attraction. So this is again 2 slides. So we should learn from others' experiences and try to avoid similar situations as we have still time to do that. The conservation of living historic area need not to be justified solely by romantic attitude, or picturesque, artistic, or historic, or antique alone. So some might think that it's a romantic thing. Most of the time we think that it's a romantic or idea. It is not like that. It is an economic asset. So here we can see examples from Rome. So Italy. So they are economic assets for them. They generate income from this industry. Sometimes the people are visiting to see these buildings. So this is another good example. Nara city in Japan. So Japan is a very highly developed country. They have enough money to demolish these things and go for high rises. But still they keep these buildings because they know the value of these buildings. So these are low-rise buildings. And again, if you notice these slides, so you can't see the high rises around. That means they maintain a reasonable buffer zone also. That means they try to maintain the quality of the city, the quality in terms of the skyline, heights and everything. What you see when you are looking through the streets is the quality or architecture of the city. There are many more reasons such as conservation of resources. So it's a resource, and if you preserve it, you preserve skills and traditions, and you can preserve it for quality of life, for continuation of past into future, for identity, for character and appearance, for stability and continuity, for architecture and for tourism. So heritage should be treated as a resource. So if you have heard of Lille in France, it's a good example. So Lille is a abandoned, just neglected city before